weight to know that I will lose my loved ones one day. And not to mention that all the love, hope, and joy we have in this life, none of them can survive death according to the atheism story I was taught. What is the meaning of our lives if everything is over at the end of it? And not to forget the trials and sufferings we will all inevitably encounter along the way. What is even the point of enduring them if our lives have no meaning that is larger than death? At the end of the day, I couldn't help feeling doomed, sad, and confused. That's probably how I began my journey, searching for the meaning of life. But I couldn't find any convincing answer from books, school, or family. By the time I turned a teenager, a neighbor preached the gospel to my grandma, and she later joined a Bible study and started to go to church. That big book on Grandma's lap with a cross on the cover was my first impression of the Bible. I was amazed that being an illiterate person in her 60s, my grandma was able to read through the whole Bible from back to back by looking up every single word at a time in the dictionary. However, being an ignorant and arrogant teenager, I dismissed the gospel as some superstitious obsession of old folks, and of course, I was too smart to believe that, because I was taught to look at the world in a scientific way. Now looking back, I realized that atheism is Satan's most horrible weapon that he uses to deceive many. It's even more dangerous than false religions, because even pagans acknowledge the existence of a god or several gods with supernatural power, also known as pagan gods or false gods. While atheism simply denies anything beyond the physical realm, leaving no opportunity at all for an atheist to even know the existence of God. And that was the greatest obstacle for me on my journey to find God and the meaning of my life. When college years came along, my search to no avail had spiraled me down to a pit of emptiness and thirst in my soul that cannot be satisfied by anything. When I asked, what is the meaning of my life? Some just answered with a laugh. Others thought I was simply bored. And my mom, on the other hand, was worried that her child may have lost her mind, since I've always been a quiet and introverted kid that likes to think about crazy stuff. Eventually, I came to a desperate place, accepting the possibility that I may never find the meaning of my life, or there is just no such meaning at all, maybe. Well, looking back now, I thought, no wonder I couldn't find the meaning of my life. I was trying to figure it out all on my own without consulting the one who created me and who gave me this very life I have. It is just as silly as taking apart a sophisticated machine, trying to find its purpose without first asking the maker or read the manual. After graduating from college, I came to study in the United States. And one Friday evening, I was dragged to a Bible study by a friend. Though I kept going back after the first time, I still didn't take it serious at all. To me, the Bible study was just a social activity to chit-chat and talk with friends, and just a way to kill some time, since I didn't have anywhere else to go on Friday night. You see, my atheism nerve was still very strong at that time, and it didn't budge a little until I met Oscar, who later became my husband. It was when he talked to me about God that I first started to think the possibility that maybe there does exist a God somewhere. So being the scientific person I was, I started my own experiments to test that hypothesis. I would say to God, I would say, I would believe you if you help me pass this exam, help me get that degree, and help me find a job, or help me survive this relationship, etc. Ironically, if my requests were answered too fast, I would think that things were going to turn out fine anyway, even if I hadn't asked God. And if it took a while for me to see results, I would just rush to the conclusion that either God doesn't exist or he doesn't care. It was funny that blessings in my life didn't bring me to God. Because I just took everything for granted. But when things really took a downturn and came with it disappointment, heartache, and frustration, I initially went to the Lord for refuge. At a time when my life was so full of struggle and strife, I started reading the book of Matthew, and God's word magically and slowly calmed the waves inside of me little by little and replaced it with a peace that was so desperately lacking in my life at that time. As it was sung in one of my favorite songs, gently he wrote me and lovingly he took me. Looking back, I saw that though I kept giving God doubt, he gave me his grace. He was actually never far from me, always so patiently and lovingly watching over me and guiding me. Before I knew Jesus, I was an ignorant sinner, not knowing that I needed to be saved. After I knew him, I was still a sinner, but a miserable one. I realized that I didn't know how to love at all, neither to love myself or to love others, because I was very self-centered and selfish. But God showed me that true love is unconditional and sacrificial, just as Jesus sacrificed himself for me. And his love is all I ever need to fill that emptiness in my soul. I need to love God. Let him teach me how to love myself, and let his perfect love flow through me to others. When I first read in Matthew 5:44 that Jesus told us to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, for if you only love those who love you, what reward do you have? I was like, Jesus, I really wish you didn't say that. It was easy to love you because you first loved me and you died for me. But to love those that don't deserve my love, how could I ever bring myself to do that? But in John 14:15, he told us, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. So I started to try to love others, not because they are lovable or because they will love me back, but to choose to love others because I love Jesus and because I want to obey him. Still, I couldn't do it with my own strength. When dealing with unwanted situation in life, it is so easy for my flesh to get disappointed, offended, and hurt, and to want to fight back and get even. But I learned that Jesus is only a prayer away. With the help of his Spirit, I was able to do a little bit better each time when I was tested. And with that, I feel more and more freedom and peace in my life. People and things that used to really bother me and upset me before started to lose their power over me. freedom, and peace are precious gifts from Jesus, for which he paid with his very life. If Jesus shed his blood for me on that cross, when I was still a sinner, when I still yet to know him, nothing will be too much for me to bear when I pick up my cross and follow him. Someone once said that there are only two important days in our life. The first is the day we were born, and the second, the day we know why. I've always wondered when my second day will be. Now I know that that was the day I was born again. And finally, I found the meaning of my life, which is to live in the light of God's presence every moment, to love him, obey him, rejoice in him, love others, and bring glory to his name. And I know that my life has hope and meaning that transcend death because I have been ransomed by the blood of Christ. I've heard people say, there is heaven on earth. And I thought to myself, how could I feel the sweetness of heaven in this fallen world where sin abounds and trials come and go? But Jesus has showed me that as I walk along my life holding his hand, I am already in touch with the essence of heaven, which is closeness to him. Lord, I thank you for the privilege of knowing that never once did I ever walk on this earth alone. Thank you.